Hello everyone, welcome to Code Invasion, and in this video we'll be learning how the filter method in JavaScript works. Now, the filter method in JavaScript is an array method that creates a subarray of elements that satisfy a given condition from an original array. That sounds a lot, so let's take an example in code to see what we mean. Alright, so let's say we have a numbers array, right? And we want only the even numbers in this array. We can achieve this using the filter method. So in order to do that, we simply have to call our filter method on the array, right? And in this filter method, we'll pass in a function which would test whether the number is even or odd, right? So now what happens is that let's create our function, right? And let's call it is even. So function is even, right? So we can do that by calling the filter method on our numbers array, right? And we'll pass in the function which it would execute on every number in the array, right? So let's call this function is even. Now just beneath that line we'll define our function, right? And let's say function, and we'll call it is even. Now a very important thing to note is that anytime we call the filter method on an array, it loops over the array and executes the given function on every element in the array, right? Very important is also to note that the filter method retains an array, right? So we'll have to store that returned array in a variable. Let's create one and call it even numbers, because we are trying to find the even numbers in the array. Now back to what we were saying. So as the filter method loops over the array and executes the given function on every element in the array, it also retains the current element, the index of the current element, and the array as parameters to the function passed into it. So we can access those in the function, right? So we can hit the element here, which is the current element, the index of the current element, and the array, right? So let's simply say, but in most instances, right, we would only be using the element. So in our function body, we would simply want to return, we are testing for even numbers, right? And the condition is to do this element modulo 2 double equals 0, right? What the filter method does is that it executes this function, the is even function, on every element in the array. So it will start from 1, and then 1 modulo 2 is 1. Sorry, it doesn't satisfy this condition. So in our newly created array, the element 1 would not be included. It then moves on to the second element, which is 2, and 2 satisfies this condition. So we would have 2 here, right? And then it goes on and on. Now to see the elements that satisfy the condition and our even number, which is our even numbers array, we can simply log our even numbers array to the console. So let's do that and run our file in the terminal using node. We'll simply type node, and then we'll pass in the file name, in this case index.js, hit enter, and boom, there we have it. You see the numbers 2, 4, and 6 logged to the console. That's because they do satisfy this condition, right? So the filter method creates a sub array from an original array containing elements that satisfy a particular condition. Do you see that? All right. An alternative way we could write this code, right, is to move this function definition into the filter method, directly into the filter method, and this would still work. Come in, let me resize the terminal. Let me resize this, or we could simply do Control B, and that will work just fine. Okay, I think this is good, right? So This is also an alternative way to write the filter method, right? And let's run our file in the terminal and let's see node index.js, hit enter, and boom, there we have it. Now, this is a much cleaner way to write it than the first time. However, in the recent times, the way to write this piece of code, right, is usually by using arrow functions. Now, for those of us who don't know what an arrow function is, it's simply a concise way to write JavaScript functions without the function keyword. So let me just demonstrate what that would look like. So this is what it actually looks like. This is a simple arrow function, right? So let's rewrite the previous code again using arrow functions. So we have cons. Remember that it returns an array. The filter method returns an array. So we just have cons even numbers equal to numbers dot, I will call our filter method, and then we'll pass in the arrow function. This is what it looks like. Right, now recall that the filter method returns the current element as it loops over the array, the index of the current element, and the array itself as parameters to the function passed into it. But in most instances, we would only use the element. Now we can rename this element to whatever we want. It doesn't always have to be element as we named it in the first example, right? So in this example, we'll call it num, representing number, right? And in our function body, we'll simply return num modulo 2. Remember, guys, we are testing for whether it's even or not. Now, equal to 0, sorry, right? And we log the even numbers variable to the console. Now, let's run our file using node in the terminal to see the result. Boom, there we have it. So that's it for the filter method in JavaScript, guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, share with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy coding.